Hey guys, Tyler Feel and Fire Erzberger here, a friend and colleague Emily Rand. We are doing free agency special preview videos, and right now it's TSM time. It's a new TSM. It's a new day and age. After having two mid laners for almost the last decade of play, actually it has been the last decade of play. Two mid laners. Now we will have the number
three.
Not even
an exaggeration.
Yeah, not even exaggeration. It's been two mid laners in 10 years for TSM. A new legacy will be built in 2021 as Coach Bjergsen coaches number three, the third mid laner of TSM, Emily. We've already had a discussion of who could that be, Trophy, Purse, Caps. We've thrown every single name at the bulletin board.
Those are some names.
Yeah, they are names. Those are names. Like if they're going to, go on that legacy of being number three, of being a long-term solution, we brought up those names. But looking at TSM as a whole, what do you feel about this roster right now? Because it's kind of broken down. We have Bjergsen gone. Doublelift almost retired. There's questions if Broken Blade's going to get replaced in the top lane. Where on this team should they look at and lock down? We have Bjergsen gone, but of the four other starters still on the team, who's the one player or two players that you say should be on the 2021 roster? I want to build around these guys.
I mean, I have no idea. I think, because honestly, the thing I'm the most curious about TSM, because they've had such a standard style that, back in the day worked really, really well, but has shown that if you don't move past that style, you kind of get stagnant and left behind a bit when it comes to being able to adjust to different metas. And I'm morbidly curious to see, did this start because all the way back in, I think it was season 3, after they faced SK Telecom, Reggie was like, that's it, this is how we have to play, etc. And that's kind of been locked in as TSM's play style since
last 7 years.
And he was the one who, even before people were saying, oh, he taught Bjergsen, he was also kind of inserting himself on the team pretty consistently, and when they were struggling, Reggie shows up for the tough talk and he makes people cry, and then they suddenly do better. Which you can have opinions on that one way or the other too. But jokes aside, that is actually the thing I'm the most curious about is who did they get for mid, and how does that affect TSM's playstyle? Or is it going to be one of those things where Bjergsen, who I actually think is an incredibly smart player, I'm really curious to see how he's as a coach, does he continue to have this style? Because he seemed to be a equal adopter of it when he became the team's mid laner, and Reggie kind of was like, okay, here's how you kind of need to play to win, and here's what I learned from, I'm saying SKT because Reggie said it in an interview. But then, how does TSM evolve beyond that? Because if I'm looking at this lineup, and again, I hate to bring up the spring season thing, but how is TSM approaching spring season compared to summer season? Do they just have a completely different roster for spring, and then they're like, okay, now it's summer, now we lock in our Worlds roster, now the fun begins? Because that is something I actually see them doing, especially if they want to hold on to Doublelift, because Doublelift has done this before, where he decided he wanted to stream for a split and try out streaming, and TSM were like, okay, you can do that, and we'll just bring Wild Turtle back. In 2017. So, I mean, that is actually something I'm super curious about as well. Is of all the teams that we've heard these crazy rumors about, what are they going to do with spring season now that it still doesn't count towards championship points? And as far as I know, NA is still the only region that does that. All other regions have spring count for something. It's just not weighted as heavily as summer. How do we deal with that? What are we doing for our spring roster? How different is it going to look from our summer roster? I don't even think this is necessarily a bad team, but where does it fit within the system of TSM? Is there a system of TSM? Are they going to continue to play the same style that they've arguably been playing since Reggie? And when does that change? What kind of thing. Like, if Bjergsen stepping down doesn't do it, what is going to make TSM?
Never. It's the legacy. It's the number 10 in Barcelona. I love it.
Play differently.
I love it. Keep the same system. It's something you see in sports of like the number 10 Barcelona or you know, the shooting guard or the point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers, like having like that legacy built in of like the next guy up, the next legend of like, you know, Kobe retires, there comes, you know, LeBron a few years later, or Magic to Kobe to Shaq. Like you have that legacy. I like it. You know, Reggie. Like how like, it would kind of feel kind of sad if it was like Reggie, Bjergsen, random NA Academy player. Where sure, I do think if
you're gonna poop on Cat Evolve.
No. If it's Cat Evolve, like I do think it's either a thing of like you have to either. And I've said this with Yarder before. It's either for the TSM mid laner spot, it has to either be a home run or it has to be a strikeout. Like you want to like either bring in a player like a Cat Evolve or a Palafox and say, you're our future, kid. We're going to build you up like Bjergsen. Bjergsen's going to coach you. First year, we're most likely not going to make words with you. Or like we're gonna try to develop you very slowly to make you into a superstar player. We're going to try to make you, you know, a blabber or, you know, even, you know, a homegrown NA mid lane star, which has that ever happened? No, we've never had a true superstar NA mid laner. And
I'd say the closest is probably Pole Belcher.
Pole Belcher or Reggie, right? Like Reggie.
Reggie. Back in season
two. Yes, we have not had really a super.
I'm not trying to like poop on Reggie either, but that was like a very different time.
Yeah, no, but if you had to say superstar, like a player that is the highlighted player on an international docket, an NA player has never had that. Pole Belcher, very good player. Very, very good player, a star in his own right, but never a superstar. Reggie, for all the crap you want to give him, back in season 2, he was a superstar. Sure, Alex Ich would come around every few months and slap him up and be like, okay, Moscow 5, better than NA. But he was still a superstar that was on the front page, the headlines. He was the face of you know, League of Legends at the time. And it's been 8 years since we've had that. So it would be nice to see, you know, TSM say, like, we believe in Cat Evolve. We believe in Palafox to be, you know, the first real superstar NA mid laner. We're going to build him up. Or you go for a home run. You get, you know, you buy out a Power of Evil, or you sign a Chovy, or you sign a buyout of Caps or Perks. You know, wild, ridiculous ideas of like, you know, TSM has the money. I don't know if they do it, but I think the ending on this segment of who would I want to build around, obviously the mid lane is so important of who they pick, of who else they want to keep on the roster. I do think if you're keeping one player on this roster, I think it's Spica. I think he's earned the chance of playing again. I think just for the 9-man sleep at Worlds where no one followed him up, he deserves another.
There are so many times where Spica is just like, okay. It reminded me of watching SKT with Clid when Clid first came on that team, and it was like, hey guys, I'm going in, and I have this really awesome engage, and then the rest of the team's like, nah, like
we're good. This is like minute 12. We don't usually fight until minute 35, so have fun, kid. But no, I think Spica is a player you can build around. I think it's too early to say if he'll become even a blabber style player, you know, MVP candidate, or a player like Centauran who can facilitate the lanes and be an intelligent jungler. We don't really. I think he's going to curve more towards the blabber style than, you know, a Centauran or a Smithy kind of way of playing the game. But I think he's still learning, right? We still really haven't seen the full potential of what Spica can be on the world stage, of what kind of player he's going to become. So I think Spica, he stays. The other 4 positions, I would say, up in the air, and you can do it as you wish. And I think it's Spica, mid laner, and then you build out the roster from there. And I think that is where the discussion becomes of TSM and what we're going to discuss in our future videos of what TSM should do with the rest of the roster.